Life is a pain, and then it ends. That's the last thing my grandpa would say before he abandoned us. As a 33-year-old single mother who is in over her head in debt, I never imagined I'd find myself in agreement with that scumbag, yet here I am, desperate enough to accept a job that's as shady as a vampire's beach mansion. Lisa here, and this is the near monster feeding incident that nearly happened to my child. On a Tuesday, it all began. Every Tuesday was the worst, therefore that's why I remember it. It appeared like all the bills came at that time. Pass. Due screened out by each one in bold red letters. A ringing phone interrupted my contemplation on how to buy groceries for a week on $20. As I sat at my kitchen table, there was a job alert. A certain cafe along Gold Camp Road is looking for a night waitress. Earn $35 per hour. My phone was about to fall to the floor. Everything might be altered by that sum of money. I might be able to pay off my rent and possibly begin putting money down for Mia's education fund. But what about $35 per hour for hashing out in the wilderness? There was a discrepancy. But I was certainly begging, and beggars can't have it both ways. I didn't give myself enough time to reconsider before I submitted an application. By the next hour, my phone had rung. The other end of the line had a gravelly voice asking whether I could begin that same night. Absolutely nothing, not even a background check or interview. Show up at 11 o'clock sharp. At that moment, I ought to have sensed that something was wrong. However, as a single mother whose debt outweighs her income, you refrain from raising inquiries. The only thing you can do is agree and hope you aren't seriously mistaken. I contacted my sister to accompany me as I gathered Mia's cleanest clothing and set off for the trip. There was an eerie atmosphere on the way to Gold Camp Road. Darkness stretched out on each side of the roadway as it snaked its way through the mountains. It was basically simply a never-ending pitch black, though my headlights did pick up hints of gnarled trees and rocky outcrops. Like a neon splash in the night, the restaurant materialized out of thin air. Gold Camp Cafe. The sign appeared to be nearing the end of its useful life as it buzzed and flickered. Aside from a battered pickup truck and a vintage Buick that appeared to have remained stationary since Carter's presidency, the parking lot was deserted. I inhaled deeply, endeavoring to disregard the inner monologue urging me to return home. "Lisa, you're capable," I whispered to myself. "Work is work. It was just your average, slightly unsettling, out-of-the-way job." When I stepped in, the bell hung jingling above the entrance, and I'm telling you, every single person in the room looked at me. Even though there were just 3 customers, an elderly couple sitting at a table by the window and a trucker-looking guy working the counter, their intense gazes gave me the creeps. "Lisa, you must be here," someone said. As I pivoted, I noticed a senior citizen coming out of the kitchen with her silver hair and wrinkles. She appeared to be at least a century old, yet her eyes were as keen as tacks. "Hi, my name is Mabel. Return in no time. I can help you get everything set up." I trailed behind her to a rear office that was somewhat small. A traditional diner waitress's uniform along with a small apron and a folded sheet of paper was the item she presented to me. "Here's your uniform and the rules," she said. "Memorize them. They're important." I unfolded the paper, expecting the usual stuff about food safety and customer service. 1. Always greet customers with "Welcome to Gold Camp Diner." What'll it be? Tonight, do not deviate from this greeting. 2. If a customer orders something not on the menu, politely inform them we're out of that item. Do not attempt to make special orders. 3. Do not look directly at customers while taking their order. Keep your eyes on your notepad. 4. If you hear scratching sounds from the kitchen, ignore them. Do not investigate. 5. If a customer asks to use the restroom between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., inform them the restrooms are out of order. 6. Do not enter the walk-in freezer under any circumstances. 7. If you see a customer's reflection in a mirror or window, but not the customer themselves, excuse yourself immediately and inform the manager. 8. If a child enters the diner alone after midnight, do not serve them. Call the manager immediately. 9. At the end of your shift, count to 100 before leaving the diner. If you hear your name called, start counting again. I looked up at Mabel, waiting for her to crack a smile. Tell me it was all a joke. But her face was dead serious. What the hell kind of rules are these? I asked. Mabel's eyes narrowed. The kind that keep you alive. Girl, now you gonna follow them or not? I thought about the stack of bills waiting for me at home, about Mia's worn-out shoes and the field trip I couldn't afford to send her on. I swallowed hard and nodded. Good, Mabel said. Your shift starts in 5 minutes. Get changed and get out there. As I put on the uniform, my hands were shaking so bad I could barely button the dress. What had I gotten myself into? But it was too late to back out now. I needed this job. Weird rules or not, the next few hours were a blur of coffee refills and greasy plates. The customers were few and far between, mostly truckers and night owls who looked like they'd seen better days. I stuck to the rules, keeping my eyes down and my greeting consistent. Welcome to Gold Camp Diner. What'll it be tonight? Round AM, things got weird. A suit-clad man entered, appearing far too well-groomed for this hour of the night in an isolated area. After taking a seat at the counter, he glanced across at me directly and declared, I'll have the special. As I approached, I went completely still. No special was available. My thoughts whirled to rule number 2. My voice quivering slightly, I apologized to the gentleman. The special won't be available tonight. Is there anything more I can get you? The man's eyes narrowed, and for a second I swear they glowed red. Are you sure about that? He asked, his voice low and menacing. I nodded, gripping my notepad so tight my knuckles turned white. Yes, sir, I'm sure. Can I recommend the burger? Instead, he stared at me for what felt like an eternity before finally nodding. Fine. A burger it is. As I turned to put in his order, I heard a scratching sound coming from the kitchen. It was faint at first, but it quickly grew louder, like something with claws was trying to dig its way out of the walls. I remembered rule number 4 and forced myself to ignore it, even as the sound set my teeth on edge. The night wore on, each hour bringing some new horror. A woman whose reflection walked away while she stayed seated. A child who appeared at the door at 3 a.m., his eyes black as coal, each time I followed the rules. My heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. By the time my shift was ending, I was a wreck. I'd seen things that defied explanation, things that made me question my sanity. But I'd made it. I'd followed the rules and survived. As I changed out of my uniform, I noticed something there. At the bottom of the rule sheet was a 10th rule I hadn't noticed before. Rule 10. If you see the owner of the diner, Mr. Goldcamp, do not acknowledge him. Do not speak to him. Do not look at him. Leave immediately and do not return. My hands started shaking. I'd seen Mr. Goldcamp. He'd come in around 4 a.m. a tall, gaunt man with eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. And I'd not only acknowledged him, I'd served him coffee and chatted with him about the weather, panic rising in my throat. I rushed out of the diner, barely remembering to count to 100. Before I left, as I reached my car, I heard someone call my name. It was Mabel, standing in the doorway of the diner. You did good tonight, Lisa, she said. But you might not want to come back tomorrow, or ever. I didn't need to be told twice. I jumped in my car and sped away, my tires kicking up gravel as I peeled out of the parking lot. The drive home was a blur. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of everything I'd seen and heard. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the sun was starting to rise, casting an orange glow over the neighborhood. I walked into my house, exhausted and shell-shocked. My sister was asleep on the couch, and I could hear Mia stirring in her room. I went to check on her, needing to see her face, to ground myself in something normal and good. But as I opened her door, I heard, "Welcome to Gold Camp Diner," Mia was saying in her sleep. "What'll it be tonight?" I stood there, frozen in horror, as my 7-year-old daughter recited the rules I'd memorized just hours ago. Rule after rule, word for word, in a voice that didn't sound like her own. And that's when I knew. The nightmare wasn't over, it was just beginning. I spent the next few days in a daze, jumping at every shadow, flinching at every unexpected sound. I kept expecting to see Mr. Goldcamp's glowing eyes peering at me from dark corners, or to hear that awful scratching coming from inside my walls. But nothing happened. Life went on. Maddeningly normal. Mia went to school, I cleaned houses and picked up odd jobs, and the bills kept piling up. The only reminder of that night at Gold Camp Diner was the fat wad of cash in my purse. My wages for a single shift of terror. A week after that night, I was sitting at the kitchen table, once again trying to figure out how to make ends meet. The money from the diner had helped, but it wasn't enough, not nearly enough. And now the rent was due, Mia needed new shoes, and the car was making a noise that screamed, expensive repair. My phone buzzed. A text message. Unknown number, we need you for another shift. Double pay, tonight. I stared at the message, my heart pounding. Part of me wanted to throw the phone across the room to pretend I'd never seen it, but another part. I looked at the pile of bills, at Mia's worn-out shoes by the door, at the eviction notice I'd been trying to ignore. Fuck, I muttered. Then, I texted back, I'll be there. As I drove out to the diner that night, I told myself it would be different. I knew the rules now. I could handle it. And with double pay I could finally get ahead. Maybe even start looking for a better place to live. But as soon as I pulled into the parking lot, I knew I'd made a terrible mistake. The diner looked wrong. The neon sign was flickering more violently than before, casting sickly pulses of light across the empty lot. And the windows, were those shadows moving behind them, or just my imagination? I sat in my car, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Every instinct was screaming at me to drive away, to forget about the money and the bills and just get the hell out of there. But then I thought about Mia, about the life I wanted to give her, and I knew I had no choice. I took a deep breath and got out of the car. As I walked towards the diner, I ran through the rules. In my head, greet customers properly. Don't look them in the eye. Ignore the scratching. I could do this. I had to do this. The bell jingled as I pushed open the door. The sound unnaturally loud in the quiet night. The diner was empty, the booths casting long shadows in the dim light. Hello? I called out. Mabel, no answer, just the soft hum of the refrigerators and the tick-tock of a clock on the wall. I made my way to the back, my footsteps echoing on the linoleum floor. The staff room was empty, my uniform hanging on a hook like it was waiting for me. As I changed, I tried to shake off the feeling of dread that was settling over me like a heavy blanket. Just as I finished buttoning up my dress, I heard the bell jingle again. Customers already. I hurried out to the dining room, plastering on my best waitress smile. Welcome to Gold Camp Diner. What'll it be tonight? The words felt like ashes in my mouth. The man at the counter didn't respond. He just sat there staring straight ahead. I cleared my throat and tried again. Sir, can I get you something to drink? Still nothing. Remembering the rules, I kept my eyes on my notepad, not looking directly at him. That's when I noticed the man wasn't casting a shadow. I backed away slowly, my heart pounding. What was I supposed to do? This wasn't in the rules. As I reached for the phone to call Mabel, I heard a sound that stopped me in my tracks. Scratching, coming from the kitchen. But this wasn't the faint scratching I'd heard before. This was loud, frantic, like something was trying to claw its way out. And then I heard something else, a voice, muffled but unmistakable, coming from the walk-in freezer. Help, please, somebody help me. I stood there, frozen and indecision. The rules said not to enter the freezer under any circumstances, but there was someone in there, someone who needed help. Before I could make a decision, the scratching suddenly stopped. The diner fell silent, the kind of silence that feels like a physical weight pressing down on you. And then I saw him, Mr. Goldcamp, standing in the doorway to the kitchen, his eyes glowing like hot coals in the dim light. Lisa, he said, his voice a low rumble that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I'm so glad you came back. We have a very special order tonight. I wanted to run, to scream, to do anything but stand there, but I was paralyzed, rooted to the spot by a terror so profound it felt like my very soul was trying to escape my body. Mr. Goldcamp smiled, revealing rows of sharp, gleaming teeth. Don't worry, he said. This won't hurt much. He lunged forward, impossibly fast. I stumbled backwards as I screamed, having finally found my voice. I was startled into action when I accidentally knocked over a chair. I took flight, rustling, Around in the parking lot, I made my way out of the diner, heard something behind me, an item, something massive, advancing rapidly. My heart was pounding when I slammed the key into my car's ignition. At the same moment as the engine started rumbling, something slammed into the side of the vehicle, causing it to rock wildly. Coming out of the parking lot, I slammed on the accelerator, making the tires screech. I caught a glimpse of something in my rearview mirror. There must be something. Something enormous, multi-limbed, and eyeless as pie. Anything that has no business being there. I was terrified the whole way home, looking in every reflection as if I were expecting to see that creature close behind. But it never came. As I arrived at my driveway, the sun was rising, casting a rainbow of pinks and golds across the sky. Attempting to make sense of what had transpired, I remained seated for an extended period. Trembling, did it really happen? On the other hand, was the pressure finally getting to me? At last, I made my way inside. I am grateful that Mia was still asleep. As soon as I went to see how she was doing, I felt a weight lifted off my shoulders, indifferent to the horrors that had just transpired. I heard her stir as I turned to exit her room. "Who is my mother?" with her mouth agape. She was still sleepy. "Yes, darling." My voice was raw from shouting when I spoke. As she spoke, her eyelids remained closed, reminding us of rule number 10. Keep your distance from Mr. Goldcamp. Run away from him. Don't speak to him. Out of fear and astonishment, I just stood there, with my head spinning. I bolted out of Mia's room. How on earth did she have knowledge of the regulations? Is Mr. Goldcamp involved? I had kept quiet about it. I had been quite cautious. With a splashing of cold water on my face, I staggered to the restroom. Upon reflection, I appeared appalling. I have ghostly pale skin, disheveled hair, and dark circles under my eyes. At least I had survived. Well, I had managed to get away. Regardless of what it was, had I, in fact, gotten away? At this point, the rules were at my house. In the mind of my daughter, how was that understood? Where was everything I had brought home? For several days after that, I was on edge. At all times, flinching at shadows and squatting at the sound of any noise. I was on the verge of hearing that horrible scratching sound emanating from behind my walls, or seeing Mr. Goldcamp's luminous eyes staring at me from behind some dark corner. Mia appeared to be okay throughout the day, even though she attended class, completed her assignments, and watched cartoons during the day. She occasionally mumbled to herself when sleeping. A few rules here and there, a caution about the walk-in freezer, and an instruction not to meet Mr. Goldcamp's gaze. I couldn't handle it any longer. I was unable to eat or sleep. I had absolutely no intention of returning to that diner, even if the bills continued to pile up. In the face of that, I would prefer to live on the streets. Item once more. Sitting at the kitchen table a week after my last work, I was trying to stretch $20 till payday, when my phone buzzed. A message from a mysterious phone number. "Lisa, we are missing you at the diner. Find the deal right here. Please don't make us wait forever." With my heart racing, I threw the phone down as if it were on fire. By now, they had my number. Any time, any place, they might reach me. The night before, Mia and I made our packing list. It was time for us to leave. Never mind the bills and the job. I would find a solution. This was the worst possible situation. Out of the doorway came Mia's voice, and I heard her as I tossed garments into a suitcase. "Who's my mother? Is there a destination in mind?" I pivoted to see her stance, cradling her beloved plush toy. I said, "Yeah, honey," attempting to maintain a steady voice. "We're planning to take a short vacation. Encounter, if you will." Mia arched an eyebrow, gazing at me with what suddenly appeared to be much older eyes than her 7 years. "Does the diner play a role?" she inquired. I went completely still. "Excuse me, if you were Mia, what would you say about the diner?" As she glanced at her feet, she shrugged. "On occasion. It appears to me in my dreams. Glowy eyes see, a man stands there. Mama, he's getting hungry. He's perpetually ravenous. I thought I was about to get sick. I want you to hear me out, Mia." I knelt down to her level and said, "There's no such thing as that location or such fantasies. Those are merely nightmares. All right, After we're gone for a time, things will improve. I assure you. I thought I saw a glimpse of the same disturbing light in Mia's eyes that I did in Mr. Goldcamp's. As she raised her head to look at me, "Mommy, you're stuck in the diner," she warned, her voice strangely serene. "We've absorbed it. It's hungry, and it won't stop until it's fed." I stumbled back, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. This wasn't happening. It couldn't be happening. Just then my phone buzzed again. Another text. "Time's up, Lisa. The specials. Ready. Bring Mia with you. Mr. Goldcamp is excited to meet her." That was it. We were out of here. Now I grabbed Mia, not even bothering with the suitcase anymore. We ran to the car, my hands shaking so bad I could barely get the key in the ignition. As we pulled out of the driveway, a figure standing at the end of our street. Tall, impossibly. Thin with eyes that glowed in the darkness. Mr. Goldcamp. I floored it. Tires screeching as we sped away. In the rearview mirror, I saw the figure slowly fade into the night. We drove for hours. No destination in mind, just away. Away from the diner, away from Mr. Goldcamp, away from the nightmare our lives had become. But as the sun began to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, I realized a terrible truth. You can't outrun a nightmare, not when it's inside your head, not when it's in your child's dreams. I looked over at Mia, peacefully asleep in the passenger seat. What had I done to her? What had that godforsaken diner done to us? As if in answer, Mia stirred in her sleep. Her eyes fluttered open, and for a moment, just a moment, I saw that eerie glow again. She mumbled, still half asleep. "Yes, baby," I said, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. "I'm hungry," she said. And then in a voice that wasn't her own, she added, "What'll it be tonight?" I kept driving, the words echoing in my head. What'll it be tonight? What'll it be tonight? I didn't have an answer. I still don't. All I know is that we can't go back. We can never go back. But I'm starting to think that maybe, just maybe, we never really left. Because in the end, the diner isn't just a place. It's a hunger that never ends, never sleeps, never stops. And now it's inside us. God help us all.